Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this community consultation event. Firstly, I acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respect the history and culture of the elders, both past and present. This afternoon, the council staff will provide a brief on a suite of documents known as the Integrated Planning and Reporting Regime. Put simply, the Integrated Planning and Reporting is a suite of documents that state to our community and to the Office of Local Government who regulate councils how we plan to raise revenue, how we will deliver services to our community, what capital works will be undertaken, how we will manage people, plant and assets, a long-term financial plan, and our community strategic plan. In essence, the IPNR is how we inform OLG how we propose to do business and is the mechanism we use to consult with our community about how we should operate. So firstly, I'll hand you over to the General Manager, Gary Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to outline to our community that together with that suite of documents is a review of our community strategic plan. The community strategic plan is the community's long-term strategic vision. Currently, Council has an existing community strategic plan, being the 2019 to 40 roadmap to our future plan. This roadmap provides a framework for our community into the future. The community strategic plan has a number of components and plans that support its strategic vision. They include a 4-year delivery program, a resourcing strategy that incorporates a suite of documents, including the workforce management plan, the long-term financial plan, and an assets management suite of documents. All of these documents are provided as part of this presentation and are available on our website should anyone want to individually look at those documents. Under the Local Government Act, within 6 months of a general election, Council must review its current strategic documents. As I've indicated, Council undertook an extensive process to review these strategic plans that created undertook these plans in 1920. And as such, Council intend to seek the community's view to review these plans rather than a complete overhaul. Together with these documents, the operational plan 2022-23 is provided for community input. Copies of all these documents are available from Council's website. However, hard copies can be provided on request. Further, our community strategic plan provides a snapshot highlighting 5 key themes utilised by Council when considering its yearly operational plan. These themes include community wellbeing, the growing economy, caring for the environment, infrastructure and services, leadership and engagement. These 5 themes form the basis of developing our short to medium suite of strategic documents. I'll now pass on to our Acting Corporate Services Director, Matthew Webb, who will outline the processes involved in its 22-23 operational plan.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you, community. As Gary has mentioned, there's a number of documents that are available for the community to critique, provide feedback. Myself and the finance team will now go through a few number of documents just to highlight the finances behind the short, medium and longer term projections that we're required to put forward as part of the IPNR framework. There's 4 key documents that build towards the council finances. You've got the delivery program, the operational plan, the longer term financials and the revenue policy. They all point towards the finances for council, but today we're going to focus predominantly on the operational plan because that is what we're looking at for the year 22-23. In summary, the operational plan is forecasting a total income of 33 million and a surplus of just over 24,000 and 87,000 based on 2 rating scenarios. Those we will touch into a little bit later, but throughout the documents, you'll see throughout this consultation period, you'll be presented with two documents that are modelled on a 0.7 and a 2.1 rate peg. Also, you'll find that council is in the business of building a lot of things, and there's a substantial increase in state and federal grants for capital purposes, and you'll see how they impact council's finances going forward. As I just touched on, there's two rate scenarios that are being presented to the community based on a IPART determination that, generally speaking, is much lower than a lot of New South Wales councils had forecast in their long-term financial plans, and that has also included override council. The general rate peg that council and a number of councils have been awarded is at 0.7, which is vastly below the long-term financials and the IPART general recommendations of a 2 to a 2.5 rate peg. So, as I mentioned before, we have presented a suite of documents based on a 0.7 rate peg, which is the IPART determined rate peg. We've also presented documents based on a 2.1 rate peg, which was the long-term financial forecast last year, and is the rate that we are allowed to apply under a special variation application to IPART. IPART have made this application process available based on an array of feedback from local government, and that is the avenue that we have put forward to the community and council, and we have proceeded with an application on 2.1 as well. Some of the operational plan assumptions on the expenses front, you will find detailed throughout the documents, but one of the key ones that the finance team really need to consider is the increasing costs that we're finding across the organisation. Two of the summary ones that you'll see here is employee salary and wages. That's a big escalation based on increasing superannuation and wages costs that we need to factor into the organisation. We also continue our donation program each year with a section 356 of 80,000 through the operational plan. When we look at the income statement comparisons, this is how the essence of the budget has been derived. You will find the different categories there in terms of the adopted budget from last year and the two models that we're proposing, and you will see how that rate peg impacts the income across council. One of the ones that I wanted to draw your attention to was, you'll notice a reasonable increase in the user charges and fees in the income front, and that's because council is anticipating a number of revenue generating private style works that we always are on the lookout for throughout the year, and that's something that we're looking to pursue and forecasting again for this year. Other income across there is continues with our interest in investments, our other revenues, and you really see that council continues to actively source grants both on the operating and the capital front, and as you'll see, our operating grants and contributions for capital continue to exceed each year, with council in the business of doing a lot of capital works. On the expenses side, again, something that the team really needs to consider in putting together the budget, and based on the two options, these are the summary of how we look at the expenses across council. And again, looking at the employee benefits and on costs, you'll see a significant uplift in the costs associated of staffing the organisation. A lot of these are mandated, and that all needs to be factored into the operational plan. We have forecast increased borrowing costs based on projects that council will be looking to borrow in the short-term future to complete. As I was talking before, on the income side, in our user fees and charges, we are expecting increased revenue, and that obviously will flow through into our materials and contracts. That's a space that is subject to continued cost escalation in the cost of materials, in the nature of the business that we do, and also in delivering those services. So while we do expect some increased revenue, in that space. We also will see that impacting in increasing costs of materials. Depreciation amortization, as council is planning to deliver a number of capital projects during this financial year, we know that that depreciation will hit throughout the year. And our other expenses now, these generally you'll find in the documents that provided a number of categories that make up other expenses. These are generally the cost of us doing business: administration, advertising, cleaning, consultants. One of the big ones that you'll find in there is a consolidation of IT. Council is in the process of merging to a new enterprise management system. And during that transition period, we do essentially need to run 2 EMS back to back. So there is a reasonable increase in the cost of IT infrastructure. There's also some CCTV upgrades and cybersecurity expenses that are all required in an operational audit sense that make up those a significant part of those other expenses. Now I'll pass over to the Director of Planning to talk about our specific funds.
Thank you, Matt. First, I'd like to talk about the waste fund. Council will continue to fund 4 free tip vouchers per rate assessment during the 22-23 period. We'll also be providing 1 free tip day, continuing that provision. Continue to fund transfer stations at Black Springs and Burriga. And Council will also be continuing to review tip operations and outcomes will be brought back to the community during the 22-23 period for consideration. From the sewer fund, Council will undertake the main capital works, will be obviously to the sewer treatment plant, going to tender, and if grant funds come in, hopefully potentially awarding that tender during the period, and also maintenance, and compliance activities to the sewer treatment plant equipment and facility upgrades. The water fund, Council will continue to, so the current water mains replacement program will continue. Part of that is the raw water and tank membrane filtration system being replaced due to being aging infrastructure at the water treatment plant. And then I'll hand over to the Director of Technical Services.
Great, thanks, Damien.
Chris.
Yeah, as already mentioned, for this financial year coming, 22-23, there's a vast array of capital projects listed within the presentation here today. I won't go through them all, but there's about 22 larger scale projects. I'll just highlight a couple of the bigger ones. Losemount Road, a continuing project, which is being conducted over a 3-year period. Next financial year, we'll be aiming to do another 7 to 10 kilometres in delivering an upgraded road pavement on the Tablelands Way, which is Losemount Road. The community hub construction, council is now endorsed and approved construction to commence for a new library, so that will be commencing in the coming financial year. And the O'Connell Recreation Ground work has been underway. Currently, there's also additional staging works to follow, which involve potentially some irrigation and some other amenity and like there, aside from civil construction works to allow those types of facilities to be constructed. The Arkstone Road, council staff and contractors will be embarking on a upgrade of 6 kilometres of the Arkstone Road from Campbell's River Road intersection due south along that road next financial year. And also, the council will be considering some residential and industrial land development, which will certainly put an injection, certainly with regard to rates and alike for the community of Oberon. So that will be decided by council as they get in the path of endorsing this operational plan.
So thank you, Chris. The town improvement levy is again proposed for the 22-23 financial year and has the potential to raise approximately between $516,000 and $523,000. This will be dependent upon council endorsing the town improvement levy and each individual scenario as previously mentioned. Town improvement levy projects forecasting in accordance with the CSP and the delivery program. They form part of our operational plan each year to meet the cost of any works, services, facilities or activities within the Oberon Town Improvement District. In terms of how we'll be progressing, it is noted that the Common Master Plan has now been finalised and all proposed projects will utilise these reserve funds within the town common to improve those facilities as highlighted by the Common Master Plan. Council's curb and gutter program will see the continuance of this council approved program. In 22-23, works will be undertaken or are proposed to be undertaken between Raleigh Street from Curtis to Queen Streets on both sides of the road. Council also currently has a street tree master plan on exhibition, and it's proposed on finalisation and adoption of that document that works start under this program. Our bulky goods collection takes place within the town improvement area, and that is again proposed for the 22-23 year. Prior to the adoption in June 22, council will need to highlight their preferred projects following the public exhibition of this document and community consultation and feedback raised during that exhibition process. This will need to be finalised as part of the overall IPNR documentation.
As part of the income and rate pegging side, two tables have been provided to the community to highlight the rating structure proposed for council and the community based on the 0.7 and 2.1 rate peg. Before you are looking at the 0.7 rate peg rating schedule. This table highlights how the rating structure has been determined by staff across the different rate categories across our ad val, which is our valuation, our base, and the town improvement, and the revenue that would be generated based on a rate 0.7 rate peg, which has been determined by IPART. The following rating schedule is the 2.1, the other option that we have provided to the community for feedback as to how that 2.1 or that 1.4 additional uplift would flow through the rating categories across farmland, residential, rural, non-urban business. Again, the community are able to see how the 2.1 would be factored across our ADVAL, which is the land valuation base and town improvement, and the difference that these different rating scenarios would provide to council. Throughout the documents, the community can also look as to how this has a compounding effect going forward across the next 9 to 10 years. They're all put forward for the community consideration.
That concludes our summary of the operational plan as well as our integrated planning and reporting documentation. Submissions will be open to the public from now until 4 p.m. on the 1st of June 2022. And please address those submissions to the General Manager at Oberon Council at the address seen on the screen. I wish to thank the community for taking their time to view this outline and encourage all submissions to be provided within the specified exhibition period. I thank everyone for their time and wish everyone a good afternoon. Thank you.
Stop recording.